Howdy fellow followers and welcome to Worst to Best video. Today we have a band called And Oceans from Finland. Now you might be wondering, why the hell is he talking about And Oceans? That band hasn't been active for, well, past few years to be honest. But this actually came to my mind after reviewing the latest Festerday CD, full-length album that was released on 4th of January, I think, and was later on some talk about Festerday, like how good a death metal band it is, but it's also kind of a spin-off. Now, Festerday started in 1989, and had a few years of a career before changing name, changing styles, and all that stuff. So it was kind of put into rest quite soon after giving its birth and all that stuff. Now fast forward a few years more and to kind of a late 90s, mid 90s, and we have And Oceans, a Finnish sort of a avant-garde black metal band, which started with almost the same kind of a crew, at least the two main guitar players and same vocalist. So we could say these two bands are kind of like brothers or siblings to each other. And there's also Havoc Unit, which later on took the torch when As Oceans called it quit. Now why this is of today's topic? Well, Festerday is back, but so it's And Oceans. And Oceans don't have a new album out at least yet, but they are already doing gigs, as is doing Festerday. So now that these both bands are active, who knows what's gonna happen. But let's get into the business. And Oceans released 4 albums during its less than 10 years of existence. I need to alt tab a little bit to make sure that I'm talking about right years, not to pull those numbers out of my memory, which isn't working so well. But basically, And Oceans started around 1995, and that's when their first demo came out. But we're here to talk about their full-length albums. And they had 4 albums, The Dynamic Gallery of Thoughts in 1998, followed by The Cemetery of I, The Circle of O in 1999. Then took a couple of years, then became End God in 2001 and Cypher finally 2002. And then it basically decided to call it quits in 2005. So 10 years, more or less, before the band kind of reformed into a Havoc Unit, which didn't have more than 1 album, but was there like almost 10 years also. But like I said, after more than 10 years of hiatus, And Oceans is kind of back, and I'm gonna put these albums in my opinion to the correct order, which way I think they're best to be enjoyed. So without further ado, let's start with Cemetery of I, The Circle of O. Now this is their second album as mentioned, and well, to be honest, it's quite an okay album still, but it's far from their best. Because Cemetery of I, The Circle of O is an album that has as many problems as it has good sides. It's basically very synth-filled black metal in the kind of a 90s ways, and it's a clear continuation to the first album, The Dynamic Gallery of Thoughts. But it's kind of a more boring when it comes to the actual songwriting, but also way more experimenting way more than the debut album. It starts with very kind of a fast-paced synth-filled black metal, and to be honest, I think it's less original in those areas than the first album, given that it was copying a lot of ideas from Norway. But still, Dynamic Gallery of Thoughts had brilliant ideas and which was pretty well executed. Now it seems that the guys wanted to take to the next step with Symmetry, but in my opinion it was more of a sidestep and maybe a little bit backwards as well rather than forward. First of all, most of the metal material here is just fast-paced, synth-filled black metal, and it's not too catchy, it's not too very well produced, it's quite okay in that respect, but it's kind of like disappointment after the initial debut album. I mean, everything is basically right there, but not as in good, not in as good way as the debut album is doing. Now, when we progress with the album, it becomes more like a experimentation of synth music, which is sometimes quite okay and sometimes not. But seems like this album is divided in two. There's this fast-paced synth black metal, which is quite okay but not great, and then there's this weird combination of instrumental tracks, which are not that much of a great thing, but there you have it. It is as if this band was more like rehearsing for kind of albums to come, more than, creating this wonderful piece of art. So Symmetry, in my opinion, is their weakest album. Still worth a listen, but their worst nevertheless. Now, then the band moved on with Am God, which came like 2 years later, 2001. As you can see, the image style is somewhat weird also, and Am God already seems like and sounds like so much more album from the future versus Symmetry, which was very much a 90s stuff. With this album, and this is not so clearly the album number 3 in my opinion, because this might be as well as the album number 2. The thing here is the production is just wonderful. It's mind-blowingly good. It's really strong. There's some hit elements like Tears Have No Name, and everything else on this album, I mean everything on this album is way more progressive. The synths are more experimenting once again, and now it seems like the band actually found its own sound, so to speak. So everything took a bit of a leap from the second album, and it's not totally like what they were doing at their best, but it has all the ingredients, just in maybe not the right order. Some parts of the songs are maybe a little bit unoriginal, but it was clear that the band has strong identity with this one. It's kind of a nice album to listen to even nowadays, and the sound wise it's kind of a really strong and powerful metal at the same time as it is this kind of a combination of weird synths and unusual titles for tracks. It was clear that And Oceans had gone to a direction that no other band had gone. Probably annoyed many people, but it's fine because that's, I mean, And Oceans were never afraid to do that. Not live, not with albums. I think they were doing nice thing, but still, in my opinion, this was just a predecessor, a rehearsal version of what was there to come later on. Let's move to position number 2, which is, in my opinion, their debut album, The Dynamic Gallery of Thoughts. Now, I had a hard time choosing between this and Am God for the position number 2, and the thing is this. On the other hand, this is kind of a typical 90s black metal album in a ways that it wasn't as weird, it wasn't that original. I mean, it certainly had some atypical ideas which were nice, and it starts with really nice tune called Troll Fan. Lots of cool keyboard parts here, mind you, lots of good riffing as well, and even the production is pretty nice considering that this is their debut album. This is actually really good for a debut album because these guys were already skilled players. They had much ideas about songwriting, writing lyrics and whatever. So their experience with their previous bands, such as Festerday and others, they clearly showed that these guys, doesn't matter if they change style. Basically what Dark Throne was doing. Death metal first, then switch to black metal. But And Ocean style was always more sophisticated, even with the first album. However, when compared to later And Ocean's albums, this is probably the most Norwegian of them all. Some synths remind me of Morty's, that kind of cheesy 90s stuff. Also, some of the riffs are very early Satyricon-like, which is not a bad thing, by the way, but it's kind of funny. I didn't even remember this sounds so goddamn Norwegian when I was playing this again after so many years. And the why I decided to choose this for number 2 over I'm God is that it's kind of a showing the ideals and ideas of young guys creating extreme metal the Finnish way, not just copying Norwegian stuff, but still having lots of these hints towards it. So influenced by Norwegian clearly, but still having their own sound and their own style. Really nice album, which I think is a good way to start listening to Oceans. Now, you already know what's there in the first place, and this one is Cypher. Now, this is clearly the most sophisticated, but also the weirdest album by the band, and probably with the most horrible cover. I remember hearing a story that this was supposed to be a genderless person there, naked or something like that, and for censorship reasons and whatever, this didn't happen anyway. So now there is this person with clothes on and whatever. So this was way before any kind of gender fluid things, way before these, we have fur and whatever genders there. So kind of a very modern in a ways, but the music itself is what was really modern. I mean, some parts are very the experimentation with the keyboards, almost like techno elements. By the way, there's a techno song on I'm God, so it was clearly creating, paving the way for this album, so to speak. But this album is, I think, when Oceans were at their best. They had very unique sound, really nice ideas for songs, even some dance beats, which then again were weird but totally fitting for the music. It was kind of industrial, but not your kind of like overly boring or overly underlined industrial sound. So it was kind of a blend of weird ideas, which then again turned into a really original piece of an album. And production is really strong, basically very much like I'm God. So kind of a very powerful, very electric in a way, and also very industrial in a way. But I think all the pieces fell together. So it's kind of a shame that the band quit after this one, because in my opinion, Cypher is to Oceans very much the same that with Slaughter of the Soul with At the Gates. Totally different types, but both of these bands left the game with their best album out there so far. Now, if I'm God was preceding, the paving the road for this one, this was paving probably the road for Havoc Unit, which came to bloom after Oceans called it quits, and then Havoc Unit took quite a leap forward after this one. But since it's a different band, I'm not gonna mention it more here than this. But Cypher is, in my opinion, the best Oceans album. It's not everybody's cup of tea. That's kind of a given. This is too weird for that. This is not even the same band as basically what was happening going on with the Dynamic Gallery of Thoughts. But it's nice to see this kind of evolution and progressing of the band, how it turned out with 4 albums. And only like, what I was saying, 5 years? Basically 4. So in 4 years, band created 4 different type of albums. Yet you can see the kind of red dots from one album to another, but you cannot basically connect the 4 and the first one. So all in all, what I'm trying to say here is that a very interesting band. It's nice to have them back, and I totally hope they are not abandoning their roots if they are to come with a new album. I hope they will be carrying these ideas forward and bringing worthwhile successor to Cypher and I'm God. But I'm no foreseeing type of guy. I'm no seer. So who knows what's gonna happen with Oceans. But if you have missed this band when it was hot and fresh, it's still time to go check them out. You can find all these albums on Spotify and whatever. So go check out some Finnish original extreme metal and hope you enjoy. What are your favorite albums? In which order you would put them all if you were to choose? I'm looking forward to your opinions. Take care and listen to some. You got it right, and Oceans. Take care.